And for our top international story this hour, we check in with the Korean peace process, as this weekend delegates from North and South Korea met to discuss issues of national reconciliation in the northern resort region of Mount Kumgang. According to North Korean media, quote, speakers called upon all political parties, organizations, and personages of the North and South to prioritize the common demand and interests of the nation, irrespective of political view, religious belief, faction, affiliation, and isms, in order to realize national solidarity. On Monday, however, the United States is set to resume joint military drills with South Korea in a provocative move which threatens peace on the peninsula. Last week, North Korea's foreign ministry issued a warning to the U.S., declaring in a statement released online, quote, the improvement of relations and sanctions are incompatible. The U.S. thinks that its oft-repeated sanctions and pressure lead to denuclearization. We cannot help laughing at such a foolish idea. It is time for the U.S. to abandon the foolish idea that the DPRK came out to the negotiating table yielding to the sanctions. On Sunday, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo rejected North Korea's call for sanctions relief to come before an agreement on denuclearization.
So I'm not worried about rhetoric. We've seen this as we go through negotiations. Stray voltage happens to be all around us. We're very focused. We know with whom we're negotiating. We know what their positions are. And President Trump's made his position very clear. No economic relief until we have achieved our ultimate objective.
With Korea peace in question, we're joined now by Professor of History at American University, Peter Kuznick. Peter, if the U.S. refuses to budge on the issue of sanctions and these new war games, how far can the peace process go?
Well, I wouldn't be very optimistic. Right now, there's a standoff. A lot of it has to do with sequencing. The United States wants North Korea to move decisively toward denuclearizing. North Korea wants reciprocity. And so we're at this juncture now where other American officials say no progress, no lifting of sanctions, no easing of sanctions, unless North Korea completely denuclearizes. North Korea is not interested in denuclearizing, especially under these circumstances. The thing that North Korea believes that has protected them and been able to avoid a U.S. invasion is the fact that they've got nuclear weapons. And now, as what they showed last year, not only nuclear weapons, but they also have missile delivery systems that can hit the continental United States. They see that as their safeguard. And so unless the two sides reach some kind of understanding here, we're at a very dangerous situation.
And as
the South Koreans last month, President Moon Jae-in, who's really been taking the lead in these negotiations, said that he was going to lift sanctions that South Korea imposed upon North Korea back in 2010 when North Korea sunk a South Korean ship. And so he was going to lift those sanctions, but President Trump said, you can't do that without our approval, and we don't approve, and Moon Jae-in backed down. And so it's really gotten to a point now where the threats are escalating, the rhetoric is heating up, especially on the North Korean part, and that's not promising.
And regardless of the U.S. position, though, the two Koreas appear to be serious about moving toward the goal of reunification on the peninsula, or at least reaching some sort of situation where there can be normal exchange of people and goods over the border. How do you believe this shift will impact South Korea's traditional alliance with the United States? Because, as you mentioned, this has been quite testy over the last few months.
Well, Moon has been acting in a very progressive and productive way and has been reaching out concretely toward the North Koreans. And what we've seen is new roads, new economic projects, easing of tensions in the demilitarized zone. There's some very important steps. But again, in the broader context, it's not only this current exercise, which only involves 500 soldiers, 500 sailors really, and Marines, but what's the broader context? The United States, first, the Russians conducted Vostok 18, which was their biggest military exercise since 1981. The United States is currently carrying out a massive military exercise in Norway, the biggest U.S. exercise there since 1991. But the United States is simultaneously carrying out an enormous military exercise with Japan. 57,000 troops participating in that one. So this might seem small, 500 troops, but in the broader context of the intensification of these tensions now globally, this is symbolically very significant and sending the exact message to North Korea that North Korea doesn't want to hear. North Korea, Donald Trump might say, oh, Kim wrote me beautiful letters and we fell in love. But that was last month's news. This month's news is that the situation is actually getting more tense, and we need to be finding some way to talk to the North Vietnamese that eases their concerns, their anxieties. Right now, the statements coming out in the North Korean newspapers are saying that the United States is actually preparing for a military strike.
Well, considering everything you've just outlined, then as an expert, very briefly, do you believe then that the North Korean position is unreasonable here, that there should be some sort of a reciprocation if they're going to agree to completely denuclearize?
I don't think the North Korean position is unreasonable, especially if you look again at the broader picture. Trump tore up the nuclear deal with Iran. He recently announced that he wants to pull out of the INF treaty. I mean, why should North Korea at this point trust the United States, given our long history together? That doesn't mean that I approve of what the North Koreans are doing. I would love to see the complete denuclearization of the peninsula. I would love to see the removal of a lot of those U.S. troops from South Korea. The broader easing of tensions throughout the Pacific. It's not just the U.S. and Korea. The situation between the U.S. and China gets more and more dangerous by the day also.
It certainly
does. The freedom of
navigation
operations, the Chinese hardline. I mean, it's the whole region right now is potential powder keg. And so we need to calm the tensions and start talking.
It's something that we are watching closely here on In Question. We cover it and will continue to do so and bring you on to discuss it. American University Professor of History, Peter Kuznick, thanks so much.
Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out our channel. We hope you enjoyed the video. We have tons of content for you just like this. For more of RT America's one-of-a-kind news and analysis, be sure to subscribe and never stop questioning more.